There we go. And I have 11:59 on my clock, so we'll give everybody another minute or two.
They should be on it. Oh, maybe up high. I think that was the latest up high, like 90 degrees. On the right side. No,
I have to unplug my phone. The work desk phone. We got these new ones. I can't figure out how to make them stop making sound.
Oh, no.
okay, so they must be
I know, I'm always excited to like get a new phone, and then for the first 3 or 4 days, I just want to throw it out the window. It's awful.
Close out my email.
Okay, and the top, get that. And then, yeah, and then the left-hand bottom drawer. This could be
Just so you know, I'm going to touch on the definitions of the solicitor and company right at the beginning from the get-go.
other side.
And then so up front, we can go ahead and answer any questions about
Like hoodie.
who's a solicitor, counsel versus company. In case anyone has to drop off to get the important stuff done.
That's perfect. I love it. All right, well, I do have 12:01. I know people are still joining, but I will go ahead and get us started. Thank you, everybody who is on so far. We are happy to see you here and appreciate you taking the time during your summer when it's not officially PTA season to join us for training. I'm Kristen Bailey, and I serve as the state PTA treasurer. And we have a very special guest who's agreed to help us out today. This is Kim Wickersham, the director of the Public Charities Division of the South Carolina Secretary of State's office. So I'm going to hand over the presentation to Kim, and she is going to talk to us about all the things we need to know to stay compliant with the Secretary of State. Kim, thank you for being here.
Well, thanks, Kristen. I appreciate it. And I am hopeful to be able to answer any questions that anyone has today. So just so you know, I'm going to kind of go over some of the handouts that you all were given, I know, and about the difference between professional fundraising councils and solicitor companies, how to stay in compliance with our office. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat feature. And if they're relevant to what we're discussing at the time, we'll try our best to get them answered in line as we go along. Otherwise, we'll be sure to go ahead and wrap back around that at the end. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. I'm not sure which one I'm sharing. Let me move everything over. And let's see, give me 1 second here. There we go. Can you all see my document on the screen now? Or do you still?
We do see the document. You might want to zoom in, make it a little bit bigger in that lower right-hand corner.
I can do that. Yep. How's that?
That's terrific.
Okay. Very good. Okay, so let's go ahead and, let's say Kim Wickersham. I am the director for the Public Charities Division, and one of the things that I like most about my job right now is being able to meet with people, go speak with people, either in person, online, of course, just to make sure that the organizations are comfortable with what they're doing, how they're registered, and what to do should you go down a road that causes you to get a letter from us saying that you're not in compliance. And so everyone, I know you all work so hard to solicit and earn the money that you're asking people to give to you. So it's important for us to do our part to make sure that when you receive that money, that you get to keep as much of it as possible and not be giving it to us. So my goal here today and going forward is to make sure that you all know that we have an open line of communication between our office and your individual organizations or the larger group like we are today, to help you in that endeavor, to make sure that you know how to stay in compliance now, but also give you a sheet that's on the back of one of your documents today to help you just kind of put that in the front of your binder and say, here's what you need to do as the new treasurer. Here's what you need to do as the new president, but help the people that come along after you, because I know we have sent people on a hunt for parents whose kids are no longer at the school because they have information that the next PTA needs, and we try not to have to do that. Let you all move on to middle school or wherever it is you go from here, and carry on. So, all right. So the first document I want to take a look at is called the Solicitation of Charitable Funds Act, and this isn't an act that's solely for parent PTAs, but it is, how does this apply to a PTA? So the act has an exclusion carved out for PTA organizations that do not use professional solicitor companies. And there is a difference between companies and councils, which we'll get to in a moment here. But the Act states that if you do not use a solicitor company, then your registration is covered by the South Carolina Parent-Teacher Association. So, and I know the formal name is Congress of Parent-Teacher Associations, but your SCPTA submits their registration, their financial report, and covers all of your registrations as long as you all do not use solicitor company for your fundraising events. Now, why is that important? It's because solicitor companies, the way that they earn their money is by taking a percentage of, usually it's a percentage of what you sell and bring in for a donation. They take a portion of that money. And so it's all about accountability and transparency. I know I've had 4 kids go through the school system. I know that I often got frustrated and I would be like, just tell me what you need to the teacher, I'll provide that, and not go through these third-party fundraisers, because it was so frustrating. Well, one, you don't necessarily always get what you think you're getting, but you just never knew how much. And I was disappointed to find out how much didn't go to the PTA, or that could have been coming to the PTA. So I always say, when I speak, I say, one, negotiate the best contract possible for your organization. You know, we want to make sure that if you are going to give them a percentage, that they are accountable to you and to the public for how much they're actually taking in from the money that was donated or used to purchase a product or an activity. So it's all about the accountability and the transparency with the fundraising solicitors. Let's look at the definition between the difference between a counsel and a solicitor company. So a professional counsel, you might understand this. It's simply when someone counsels you on how to do something. Typically, you might say, hey, I've never built a widget before. How do I build this widget? And you're going to go to someone who's done it before, and he's going to say, well, these are the items you need, and this is how you put it together. So for a fundraising counsel, you might have a counsel that you hire that will help you come up with ideas to fundraise. This is a good product to sell. This is a good fundraiser to do. So whether it's a fun run, or whether it's selling cookies, magazines used to be the big thing. Remember back in, I'm dating myself now, but back in the day, you buy magazines. Now, those are kind of obsolete, it feels like. But no matter what it is that someone's selling, a fundraiser typically would be, you buy a product that your son or daughter is selling, a portion of it goes to that company that's selling the product, and a portion of it goes to the PTA, right? A counsel might be someone who would come along beside you and just say, these are the most popular, these are the most beneficial fundraisers, and here's how you do them. But they don't do it for you. They don't go out and make the ask. They don't receive the money that's coming in for it. And they don't get paid a percentage or based on the amount of items sold or items or people who participated, they get a flat fee and it is not dependent on any fundraising measurement at all. Okay, so that's a fundraising council. A solicitor can be the same as that, but they may go a step further. A solicitor company would say, yes, these are good ways to raise money. Here's what we find most profitable for organizations. And here's the ones that are less profitable. And here's the ones that create, maybe have less involvement on the people who are trying to raise money because they handle more of it either themselves by sending people out or by, offering you a product that you can use to create your own flyers, mail them out. So you see, we're getting away from just advising someone to working on the mechanics of it. They're going to help you create the flyers, create the brochures. They're going to help you build your lists. But even if they don't do some of those things and they're more towards a council side, there's another couple of criteria that we use to make a difference between a council and a solicitor company. So the solicitor company may collect the money and keep the money and not give it to the nonprofit organization until after the promotion's over. That takes them out of a fundraising council definition and into a solicitor definition. If they say, we're going to collect a percentage of everything that's given. So let's just say you're doing a fun run and I want to, sponsor Johnny and say, I'm going to give $20, for him to participate in the fun run. And the company says, okay, so of that $20, we're going to keep 20% of that for us, and 80% of that will go to the nonprofit organization. That's a classic solicitor company mode. I know we've got companies like Boosterthon that are infamous for doing these fantastically large fundraising events. And they also collect a pretty good chunk of the money that comes in for that. And it's based on a percentage of what's collected, what's solicited and actually comes in as contributions. And sometimes it doesn't matter if it's just a contribution, but it could be for an actual product cost if they're taking a percentage of it. And then the other thing I already kind of mentioned was who's holding the money. A solicitor council, they are not allowed to collect the money and hold the money. A solicitor company says if they collect the money, then they're acting as a company and not a council. So in the bullet point for the fundraising council there on this page, there's a section halfway through the first bullet point paragraph that says, but let's see, let me go back to the professional fundraising council, person for a fixed rate. Remember we talked about fixed rate, not a percentage of compensation, plans, conducts, manages, prepares materials, advises, or acts as a consultant directly or indirectly in connection with the contributions for or on behalf of a charitable organization. But here's where it comes in and it kind of indicates that there's going to be a differentiation here, but that actually does not solicit, does not receive, and doesn't collect contributions as part of the services. So that's an important part of the definition of a council there, because it's saying all those other things are okay, but these things are not. You can't do the soliciting, the receiving, or the collecting of contributions as part of the services. And again, as we've talked, a person whose compensation is computed on the basis of funds received or raised is not a fundraising council, according to the Act. So a professional solicitor, here's what we talked about a few minutes ago, as a person that for monetary or other consideration, they solicit contributions for or on behalf of an organization, and says the solicitor also means a person that plans, conducts, manages, carries on, and advises. So all the same things as a council does, or acts as a consultant to a charitable organization in connection with the solicitation of contributions, but does not qualify as a fundraising council. So all the things that the council can do, they can advise you. they can be paid a flat fee. But here's the things they can't do. They cannot collect the money. They cannot hold on to the money. They cannot be paid anything other than a flat fee. The fee that they receive can have nothing to do with items sold, amount raised, how many participants, none of those things. So this is the crux of a PTA requirement to register or not register with us. Okay, and this is where we start finding out who does and who doesn't need to be registered. So if you are falling in the group of people who use a solicitor company, those people are required by statute to register with the Secretary of State's office to do any fundraising. So just general soliciting. I'm not talking about raffles just yet, but I'm talking about just raising money, bringing money in so that you guys can do what you do for the students and the teachers at the schools where you're at. So the PTAs, this section right down here, talks about the charitable organization which intends to solicit contributions within the state or have contributions solicited on its behalf must file a registration statement with the Secretary of State before the solicitation begins. So when you are thinking about what you're going to do in the next school year, that's the time to start thinking about what are my legal requirements in the state of South Carolina? What do I need to do to be in compliance with the Secretary of State's office? So what you'll have to do is you'll have to file one of two types of possible registrations with our office. So there's a application for an exemption that is a possible filing requirement for a PTA. It's not going to apply to most PTAs because your gross revenue cannot be more than $7,500. And I say that this is your exemption option is because there's another one that's a larger one. If you don't solicit or have receipts more than $20,000, your gross revenue doesn't go over 20. You have to have your tax exempt letter from the IRS, which I would imagine most of you do. But you also, here's the catcher of that exemption, and this is why you don't qualify for that one. Because I know some of you have looked at that form before. You cannot spend more than $500 for any function of the organization. So you can't spend more than $500 for any fundraising event and pay it out to more than any one person. And person by statute means a company as well as an individual person. So you can't spend more than $500, but what you also can't do is you can't use a professional fundraising company, and you wouldn't be looking at that form if you didn't have to register with us in one way. So your option on an exemption application is only going to be if you have gross revenue less than $7,500, okay? If you don't qualify for an application for exemption, you must file a financial reports and file a registration statement 4.5 months after the end of your fiscal year each year. So it's an annual thing, or you do it when you very first decide that you need to register with our office. As soon as you know you're going to start fundraising and you need to register with our office and you've never been registered before, then you must immediately register with our office if you're going to do some soliciting through a company. Okay? All right. A break in the page means a break for questions if there are any.
We had a few questions in the chat, but I think you've addressed all of them. So I think there was nothing, yep, and nothing new. We can keep
Okay.
going.
We'll go to the next page then. All right. So when you do register with our office, you've filled out your registration statement. It's always due 4.5 months after the end of your fiscal year. It's renewable each year. Let's just say you are registered 1 year and you are using a solicitor company. Your renewal period comes around and someone says, hey, we've met. We've decided we are not going to use that fundraising company anymore. So you will be required, anyone who is registered with our office is required to file a financial report for the year they were registered. So what we do in South Carolina is we say, You tell us you're registering, you're fundraising right now, this current year. So this would be your 6/30/25 fiscal year end. So you're saying, we're here, we're fundraising, we're registering. 25 closes out next July, next August, you're looking at new activities and you say, hey, we're not going to use a solicitor company any longer. Your requirements are to still file a financial report for the prior fiscal year. That report is due no matter what you do the next year. So it's really important to make sure that when we send the reminder letter out, that you don't say, well, we're not going to fundraise this year, or we're not using a solicitor company, so we don't have to turn in that report. That would be incorrect, and you have to always report on the prior fiscal year. Okay. Now, if you do decide you are not going to use the solicitor company, but you're still fundraising because you're a PTA, you're not required then to register. So what you would simply do is when you get your renewal letter by email, you would just reply back and say, just update our records to show that we will not register for the next current year, for the current fiscal year. And if we change our mind on using a solicitor company, we will re-register at that time. That would be the appropriate response. Just shoot an email back to us. But also know that we're still looking for your financial report in November. Those are always due in November. Okay. So on the financial report, you're going to be required to provide us with an itemized support and revenue statement of where you received your money from, and whether it was fundraising events or individual donations or membership dues. You'll have to provide us itemized and expense statements for what you did with the money that you took in. Your program expenses, so program services, it's called on this form here. So when you talk about program services, that is different from total expenses. And it's important that everyone knows, not everyone here is necessarily a nonprofit, has a lot of nonprofit experience. Some of these people are like, I want to be on the PTA, but they don't know what a program expense is. So here's what it is. Your program expense is the amount of money that you spend directly on the charitable purpose that the organization was formed. So you're a PTA. That's pretty simple. We're raising money to support the teachers and support students. And how you do that specifically is what you report to the public and to us, and the public via us is usually the case, is saying we provided, 10 morning breakfasts for the teachers to celebrate, goals, accomplishments, whatever it is. Okay. So be specific. Here's how we support our teachers. We provided new rubber matting for the playground. We supported a new copier for the teachers, to a color copier for their work, whatever it is. I probably should have thought of some better examples, but you all know what I'm talking about. What you did to help the teachers, what did you do to help the students? Did you provide, like I would say the rubberized mats in the playground area? If you did something like that, that would be like a student activity that you did. We encouraged, health and wellness by bringing in a group that played with the kids for the day, showed them how to exercise, showed them, some new fun, sport games or something. And if it carried out a charitable purpose, keep track of those things. Those are the things that you want to be able to report on your financial report in that specific section, because that amount of money that you spend increases your spending to charitable purpose ratio. So if you spent $100,000 in a year, that's a ridiculous amount of money for a PTA, I know. But if you spend $100,000 in a year and you spent $20,000 of that on your teachers and your pupils, the students, someone's going to ask, where did the other 80% go? Okay, this is why it's important for you all to educate people who come in and let the next group of officers know this is what we do that's charitable. This is why we're here. These are the items that we do. keep track of them during the year. Keep track of how much money you spent on each of these things, because it matters, because it's a big difference and it's a big deal to the public when they look at our records. And I'm going to show down at the bottom of this page, it shows 94% right here. It shows for every organization that is registered with us. You can look this organization up and you can see what their spending is towards their charitable purpose. And so if you see that number is 20%, I would hope that you, as a donor of any organization, would be like, I wonder what they're doing with their money, and you should research that before you give. This is one of the reasons that our office exists, is to put this kind of information out there so that the general public can look up any charitable organization that's fundraising in the state and say, what do they do with their money? So on our website, you can actually download the report that you all submit to our office and see what's being done with the money. So really important that your people know what is a program expense compared to total expenses and fundraising expenses, because it all gets itemized. As you see at the bottom here, it all gets itemized: program expenses, total, and then fundraiser costs. And there are organizations where this fundraiser cost is well more than program expenses. Thankfully, there's a whole nother group of people, more than the backwards ones, the upside down ones, that spend more on their program expenses, their charitable purpose, than fundraising and management. And that's the way you want it to be. Okay, so you're going to tell us, where did the money come from? You're going to tell us, where did the money go in this area here? And then you're going to divide that, you're going to break that out into program expenses, which we talked about. And then there's management costs. You're going to have to include those. Those would be like filing fees with our office. Anything you paid to an accountant to do your taxes. Anything that you paid for, like when you have board member meetings, if you purchase paper, pens, if you bought coffee to bring in, those are management costs. There can be other costs as well, and they're described in here, but those are kind of some of the simpler ones that I think might fall under your expense category. Fundraising expenses. So if you did pay for fundraising expense, let's just say you hired a fundraising council and you paid them $1,000 to help you with some fundraising ideas and support and gave you the advice on it, you would make sure you report that $1,000 in expenditure in the fundraising column. Okay, so that's kind of like the basics of what a financial report would look like. And I think a lot of you all probably filed the 990EZ or a regular 990 form, or maybe the 990N because you have less than $50,000. So we don't take the postcard return. But if you file a postcard return, you file what's called our annual financial report form, the Secretary of State's annual financial report form. And it's much simpler than the 990s. It's pretty much what I spent, what I took in, what I spent, and then it'll calculate it for you, the form for you. All you do is plug in your numbers for the different categories, and it calculates everything up for you at the bottom of the page. So, all right. The information, like I said, when you submit to us, the information that the public can see looks like this, and it'll tell you name of the organization, who's in charge of the organization at that time. That's the current president, where they're located. If you all put your school address in here, then they're going to not know where you live. So school address is always good. And the 5 stats on the numbers that were received. Now, if you go afoul of this and you don't submit something like this and you don't renew your registration, when someone searches you, they're not going to see anything there. It'll just say expired. And so then we tell the public that if someone isn't registered, if it doesn't say registered here or have some wording that signifies they're active, then you might want to think twice about giving. So and we do encourage people to search. We have an app now that people can search, even if when you go to Walmart, one of the big box stores, and you see people wanting to sell something or collect donations. I use my app and to make sure that they're registered if I'm considering giving. So you can see this online, but you can also use the app to find out if an organization's registered, even if it's a, you know, a little PTA, you know. Now we always have to tell people, not every PTA has to be registered with us. And so that makes it a little difficult for the public, but you know, we have an explanation we give them. It's good. It's all in compliance. But sometimes these little one-offs, like not having to register with us, can throw a little consternation in someone's you know, tone when they call us and say they're not registered, and then we kind of explain why that is and let you go. So, all right, any questions before we move on?
Kim, just to clarify, so if many of our units do file the 990N, so they
Mhm.
cannot upload the 990N submission confirmation and satisfy the financial reporting requirements for the Secretary of State. They do need to
Correct.
fill out the annual financial report, and it's available on your website. It's super easy. It's a fillable PDF. It
Yeah,
calculates everything itself. But if they
correct.
do file the 990 easy, the 990 long form, in lieu of submitting your annual financial report that the Secretary of State's office publishes, they can simply upload the full copy of either of those two 990 forms. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. Yeah, thank you for asking that. That's good clarification. They can. And actually we prefer the 990 and the 990 EZ. We don't prefer the postcard because it has no financial data on it. But absolutely we prefer the 990s because it's the same thing that's with the IRS, and it gives a little more detail than our form does. Well, it gives a lot more detail than our form does. And so for someone who's really looking to find out, you know, where the money comes from and where it goes, that's absolutely the form that is better to see than ours. Ours is really made for small organizations that wouldn't have investments and different things, you know, that might come along with a larger form, a longer form.
Right. My other question was for our units, because we are volunteer led and there's turnover annually, in order to determine if their unit, if they haven't gotten a great treasurer's or president's handbook that has all the details in it, they can search on your website or on the app to see if their PTA unit has been registered previously. If they determine that they have been registered, but they have no login information, they don't have their, charity ID, they have no information, but they can see that they've been registered. How do they go about renewing and accessing that? What's the best way for them to do that?
Super easy. One is they can email us, and we prefer email because then you all have it for your records. There's a couple of probably best practices that I would have to say, and I'm going to make sure that I make a note about this and maybe add it to the little cheat sheet that I already provided. The best practices. So here's kind of one of the things that really I think throws a wrench in things is someone will say, if I was a part of PTA, I might say, give my personal Gmail address as the contact address, email address, right? So when we send things out to organizations, we always have to send to the email on file with our office. So if it's my personal email address versus the PTA's email address, treasurer at, president at, however you set it up, it doesn't matter. But if you're always going to the PTA email for that group, then whoever's the officer is going to get the email, hopefully, right? Okay. But if you don't, or if you do and you don't know how to access, we give the username in our communication, but we do not give the password information, obviously. We don't actually know what it is. So what you do is you email us at charities@sos.sc.gov, which is on the documents I gave you, and you just say, I'm new and I don't have the information to get into our online account. And you will tell us the EIN number for the organization or the name and the name of the organization. Or if you actually know the username, you can just give us the username. And then we respond back to you. Usually comes from myself or one of the other ladies in here. And it gives you instructions, step-by-step instructions on how to request a password reset and set up a new password. Now, all that being said, let me just say this. Normally, you know, you in life don't ever share your passwords. right? But for something like this, it's okay if a couple people know the password. Someone, you might have someone go out sick unexpectedly or all of a sudden move away. And if two people know that password for the online account, there's no personal information kept. Everything that's on that in your account, your login, is available to the public through our website. So there's not anything that someone's going to get to that would jeopardize someone's privacy. There's no, all the payments that are made through our online site are done through a third party. We don't have access to any of that information. We can just see that you paid. That's all we can see. What you do is email us if you're unsure whether you have a filing requirement or what the password is, or how you don't have any means to get into the online account. Just shoot us an email with the name of the organization, EIN, or username if you have it, and we will promptly, same day, usually within the hour, get back to you with instructions on how to reset that up and what's required. So it's a pretty simple process for you. And then just follow the instructions and let us know if you have any questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome. Okay, I'm going to go to the next document. Actually, I think I want to bring this document up here, this QR code document. So this one here, just so you know, you can keep this handy. If you scan this QR code for the charitable organizations, this will actually take you to our webpage that has all of the charity instructions and links to all the forms. Okay. The charitable raffles, same thing, goes to the raffle page where you can get to all the forms and all the statutes. If you need to look at them, has all of our pamphlets that we created and that are handouts about exempt and non-exempt raffle requirements, what's required to do a raffle, and also can get you it'll get you to the link. All of these will get you the link to our online tutorials for people that need a visual walking through the process of registering or filing a financial report, what that looks like, and some explanations for the different screens. And then down below on this same page, if you want to look up the name of the charities on our website, there's this code takes you right to our search feature on the website, and then these other two will take you to an app that you can actually have on your phone, and you can use that for personal or PTA uses, however you like to use it. Okay. All right, this other document that I sent, now we're going to get into the nitty gritty of, okay, I need to register. Okay, or I have a filing that needs to be completed. So these are the compliance requirements for anyone who's got a June 30 fiscal year end, which should be all PTAs, correct? Yep. So each organization is given two IDs. This is probably probably the confusing part of everything. There's a public ID and a private ID. Your private ID always begins with a C for charities and an R for raffles. And it is the number that we use to identify you. It is your username if it begins with a C or an R. And if it's public, then it's just on the letters that we send you confirming your registration, so that if someone says, hey, are you registered with the Secretary of State's office? You can say, well, in fact, we are, and here's our letter. It's just kind of like having the IRS letter on hand. You have the IRS letter and you say, I am tax exempt, here is our letter. And you say, I am registered with Secretary of State, and you get a letter as well from us. The requirements are for June 30 fiscal year end, even though June 30 is your end date, your renewal date is always November 15th. That's the due date for everything. You have to renew on that by that date. You have to file financial reports or extensions by that date. Same thing with raffles. You have to renew your raffle license by that date and file your financial raffle by that date as well. Now let's go through a couple of little tweaks in this. Charities. You can file your registration anytime after July 1st, because really once your new fiscal year starts, you can do it then. I say this, and I want to seriously encourage you to do this sometime in the first 2 months of the year of your fiscal year. I am going to encourage you all to do this. And the reason is, what happens on around November 15th? we have Thanksgiving, we have holiday parties starting, we have holiday shows starting. Everyone gets super busy in November. And then the other thing is, if you miss your November 15th date, our 30-day reminders letters saying, hey, you missed your date, those come out December 15th. And where is everyone at on December 15th? They're either on a sugar high or they're already gone for the holiday. So that's really, I really encourage schools, specifically their school groups, to get it done a little bit early if you can. You can get your registration done for sure. It doesn't require any financial report information during the registration process. And then for your charity financial report, you can ask for an extension. You can get 6 months, so all the way till May, to file the financial report for the prior fiscal year. Okay, so we're talking right now, June 30, 24 fiscal year. So ideally, and I don't know if happens or not, but ideally, your prior officers will already have this done because they're the ones that have the information. And before they head off to 6th or 7th grade, hopefully you've got all that information taken, recorded, and maybe put in some sort of a report. That's not always the case because we all know, when you are using a CPA, sometimes that gets in more tricky because they have their own schedules and they have more than just a PTA and November 15th filers that are due at that time. So it's not always possible. So on our website, when you log into your dashboard and go to the financial report page, it's just literally a checkbox. You say, I need an additional time, and you check that box and we give you 6 months. If you don't do that though, then you don't get the extension. So you have to make sure that you notify us by using that information on the financial report screen. So again, charity side, registration, always by November 15th. Financial report or extension request, always by November 15th. And then it's up to you to make sure that you remember in May to file that financial report when the 6 months is up, okay? Don't get into
Oh, I'm
another
sorry.
thing.
One quick question. If they are registering for the first time,
Mhm.
so they say in July or August, they register for the first time, they do not submit a financial report until the following year. Is that correct?
They file a financial report with the first one. It's just for the most recent one available. So if someone's filing now for the first time, they may not have June 30, 24 ready. So we'll take June 30, 23.
Okay, so
Because June
first
30,
time
20,
registrants also
yeah,
need to upload a financial report on the most current information they have available.
they do. They
Okay,
do. Yes, ma'am. Yep.
great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome. We have, so next, in this document, these are live links in the documents. If you got them, take you right to the page where I get this information from that we're talking about. All right, so raffles. Raffles are going to be very similar to the charity requirements, always November 15th. The difference here is that financial reports, no extensions allowed on raffles. So my advice is always to do your raffle financial report as soon as your raffle is over. You've given the prize away. You've already got your receipts for what prizes you bought or what was donated. You know what your gross revenue is. Super simple. Should be easy enough to get your net revenue and everything in order and recorded. The form's pretty simple. It's a page plus another question on the back on the third page with your signatures. But get those done right away. And then so that you have them ready to turn in as soon as you do your registration for the next year or no later than November 15th. That's the big thing that people get caught. There's no grace on raffles. So even the violations are different. If you don't register before advertising your raffle, it's a $500 fine. So you've got to make sure that you get your registration for a raffle done as soon as you know you're going to have that. I would suggest getting that paperwork together, and you don't have to fill out paperwork if you file online. So the only paperwork required online is if you're doing a financial report. Everything else is just on the screen and our program will give you a transcript of everything you submit online when you finish and pay. So remember, raffles, November 15th is still the date, but no extensions on anything and no grace period if you're found to be in violation. All right? Anything new in the questions?
Let me just look right quick.
Okay.
So, oh, here's one. If we offer a basket drawing of things like, old PTA spiritware for people that join the PTA in the first 2 weeks, that's not considered a raffle, correct?
Do they have to buy a ticket to win it?
No, I think they're saying just if you join the
Not a
PTA,
raffle.
you're entered. Okay, so it's only if you purchase a raffle ticket in order to be
So-
registered.
Well, do they have to pay to join?
They do have to pay a membership fee.
Okay, so here's the thing. The statute says that the definition of a raffle is if I have to pay something of value, money, to get a ticket or get something that signifies my participation and a chance to win a drawing, then it's considered a raffle. Now, it might be an exempt raffle. PTAs, there's only one way for their raffle to be exempt and not have to register it. There are two exempt raffles. I'm going to tell you the other one, but it won't apply to the PTA, I don't believe. One is a 50-50 raffle where it's for their members and guests, and the total amount being raffled off, the whole pot collected can't exceed $950. And you might think, well, that would be us. But the thing is the members and guests part. So think of this. If you were going to a Rotary, someone in a Rotary Club and they're just like, hey, would you like to join the Rotary Club? Why don't you come to a meeting with me one time and see what it's all about? And they do a 50-50 drawing at every meeting. Well, you're the guest of that member coming to see if you might like to join that Rotary Club. That's the type of guest. So I had a group call me once at a school and say, we're selling raffle tickets at the football game. And we said, well, it's not an exempt raffle because it's for members and their guests. They're like, they said, right, but our guests are all the people coming to the football game. And we're like, no, that's not. It can't be the public in general. So you can't be holding a PTA event and decide to sell raffle tickets and hold a 50-50 because the people coming would be the general public for those that haven't actually paid for a membership, right? Does that make sense?
It does. So in the question that was asked,
So,
because they
yeah.
paid in order to get a chance to be in the drawing,
Yeah.
that would count as a raffle,
So-
but
So
otherwise
it's a raffle, but there's a second exemption on that. So you said these are like old spiritware products. So it might be a t-shirt, it might be a hat, it might be, some widgets. As long as everything's donated and the total value of the donated prizes does not exceed $950, then it's an exempt raffle. Okay?
is
So
it
those are the two
donated if the
exemptions.
PTA the previous years purchased, t-shirts or widgets or whatever, and there's just leftovers, then is it considered that the prior board is donating it to this year's board to use as they see fit? I mean, it's not gonna, either way, but I just want to
I
make sure
knew
it's a
that question was
donation.
coming.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, it's okay. It's all right. I would not open a violation against someone for not registering for that.
Okay,
You did
got
not
it.
go out and say, I'm buying this item. We're putting some baskets together. Let's go spend some of our money now. Okay. So I would be inclined to say that would be exempt because it was just leftover goods that were donated to the next group.
Right.
Can't say that with every group. Not, I don't mean every group of yours. I'm just saying that would not fit in that small little basket of exemptions because it was just a leftover, these are leftover items that were unused. That's not, I don't think, what the law intended when they meant it had to be purchased. So I would have to say something like that. Let me just say that what I can say is that I would not open a violation for something like that. So,
Perfect.
but it is a
Okay.
raffle. But it is a raffle.
But
for
it,
sure.
it would be exempt because it's less than 950 and the items were
Donated.
donated in the
Yes.
sense that they were just leftover items. Okay,
Correct.
perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Did we have any other questions? I saw the thing popped up.
It said, what if we wanted to do a raffle for our teachers that join the PTA? Who wins will get an Amazon wish list. That requires registering as a raffle. Because you would be purchasing something brand new as the
Okay.
prize.
So if the PTA is going to purchase an Amazon wish list subscription, I'm assuming that's something kind of what it's
Or
called.
items
Maybe.
off the wish list,
Oh,
or
items off the wish list. Okay,
maybe.
okay. So you're going to have to purchase something, right? Okay. All right. So again, it would be purchased, so not exempt. And would it be a raffle though? Did the teacher have to pay anything to join?
Again,
so,
with the
yes.
membership fee. So in
Yeah.
that case, I would recommend to our PTAs that they put out the word to their parents and supporters that we need these items donated in order to provide this prize. And then you just erase the entire issue of having to register as a raffle because they were donated goods less than $950.
950. Yeah, that's correct. And right, and as soon as you buy one item, that wipes away the whole, but all the rest were purchased. You can't do that. So, okay.
And do they fill out for each raffle, if they're registered with the Secretary of State, if they hold more than one of these raffle events, they need to document each raffle?
So the statute allows you to have 4 non-exempt raffles in a
Okay.
year. So your registration is good for 1 year. You can have up to 4 non-exempt raffles. In other words, you bought everything, or you bought something as part of the raffle. But you can have an exempt raffle once a week,
Oh,
not on Christmas Day.
okay.
Little fact there.
Okay,
Actually
so
says
it covers 4 per year. That's perfect. Okay.
4 non-exempt, and then you can have 1 exempt a week. Now you don't report the exempt raffles.
Right.
You only report the non-exempt, and you have to report each one of them. And you can wait and submit them all at the end of before their due date of the next year. If you have a raffle in July or, August, right when school starts, you don't submit that financial report right away. Just kind of get it filled out, hang on to it. It's part of your package. You're gonna submit at the end of after the fiscal year ends in June 30th, 25.
Perfect. All right.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Okay. All right, so those are raffles. I have on the next page, New Year, new officers. This is where I know it's difficult. We get so many PTAs and PTOs, any kind of small group like this, where you have so many people going in and out of offices. And so I said something earlier about having a PTA email, not using someone's personal email, because when they take off they honestly, they just don't reply to emails once they're done. When they're kids, and I've had people calling, they're just like, my son hasn't been at this school for 2 years and I don't know why I keep getting these. And I want to say, just reply to one of them and we can take you off our mailing list then. So the email is a big deal, but communicate with us. So as soon as the new year begins and you've got a new, set of officers, either log on to the dashboard, and if you don't know what to do, this email here on this page tells you, gives you the email. You can email us here for anything you need. You can always email me, but they are more available than me sometimes. So I would email them if you don't know how to log in, but once you log in, you can update the officers' names and the contact person's name. and you don't have to do anything else at that time. If it's not time to renew and you're not ready, you can just save everything and log back out. And it doesn't take long at all, to take care of that information. But that's how that's how you can make sure that the new officers are getting the information that they need on when things are required to be filed. Because if you don't do that, often the first time someone realizes something was due is when we send certified mail to the person's home, their work address, or school address, whatever address they've given it to us. And that person sometimes, if they're no longer at the school, they will send it back to us instead of hoping it to see what it is, what's needed by the PTA, even though, Kim Wickersham's no longer on the PTA, officer list. It's still an important message in the envelope. We don't send things certified unless someone's gotten sideways with the statute. Okay. Anytime after July 1st, but no later than November 15th, again, you need to log into the dashboard, submit your filings by mail or dashboard, whichever you prefer. If you file on the dashboard, all the information from the prior year that you submitted is in there. Or if you updated officers and contact person, it's already in there. So you're ahead of the game. And then you don't have to fill out any paperwork for the registration at all. We have your IRS letter already on file. You don't have to resubmit that in case you don't have a copy of it. But gosh, if you ever did need it, just call us. And actually, I think the individual PTA groups, remind me, Kristen, do not have their own individual IRS letter, or do they?
They do not. They are all
Okay.
covered under our group exemption.
Exemption.
But
Okay.
they all have their own EIN,
Yes.
but not their
Yes.
IRS letter.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So, again, by charity registration renewal due by November 15th, can be filed as soon as July 1st comes around. No extensions are allowed for charity registrations. People often think because they get an exemption for the financial report, it's also good for the registration. However, it is not. One of the following are due by November 15th. Remember, the financial report or an extension requesting 6 more months. The raffle registration is due by November 15th if you hold a non-exempt raffle. No extensions are allowed for the raffle registrations either. And then again, the 15th of November, you have a raffle financial report due. No extensions for that financial report. Now, you might register to hold a raffle this current fiscal year, but then the next one, you don't. You don't have to fill out a renewal. You just let us know you're not going to hold a raffle. And even if you don't let us know, we're not going to send you anything other than, hey, your registration expired. You can just let that ride and leave it. And then the next year, if you decide you're going to have a raffle again, just re-register. So it's simple like that. With registrations for raffles, we know that it comes and goes depending on the year and what you decide you're going to do with activities. Registrations is a charity. I would say for everyone but PTAs, we know you're out there fundraising. We expect your renewal every year. But PTAs, again, because of the specific exclusion that was carved out in the statute for the PTA individual groups, you're covered again under the parent organization of the SCPTA. Okay. And again, if you have any questions at all, you may reach out to us by email or phone. Email's probably a little bit quicker because we can have some long phone calls. And I gave you again the links to the charities page, the raffle page, and the tutorials. We're working on putting more and more of those up, but there are some up there for you if someone needs to, see how to walk through that process of registering. And that is the end, and just about 1 hour. Questions? Happy to answer all the questions you have got. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I can always go back to it if I need to.
Well, I'm impressed. You covered a ton of useful information in that time period. I'll give everybody just a second to see if there are any more questions that you want to post. I will confirm what Kim said, which is when you reach out to the Secretary of State's office, to the Public Charities Division, they respond to you. I have yet to, it's not like the IRS where you just drop into a black hole and nobody ever gets back to you. They respond and they have the information that you need. And if you have received a letter saying that your PTA unit is in violation, that, again, their registered letter went to somebody who just chucked it in the trash and was like, oh, that's not mine. They are wonderful about working with you to try and understand the situation. And, a lot of times if you get one of those, you owe this enormous fine, then they do a great job about working with you for your individual situation. So don't hesitate to just be in communication with their office. If you're not sure what you're supposed to do, if you're not sure, what the violation was, what happened, they are there to help and assist and support you as opposed to just kind of police you. So we work closely with them, and they're a wonderful support for all of our PTAs. Someone just asked about the documents that Kim was sharing. Those went out in an email, but we will post them again. I'll put this training on the ssopta.org website, and copies of those 3 PDF documents from Kim will be included next to that training. So you can reference all of those again. Does anybody
So I
have
wanted to add
questions?
one thing too.
Yeah.
Please don't hesitate to ask me or reach back out to me if you are not sure whether someone you're working with on the fundraising aspect is a solicitor company versus a solicitor council, because things have changed a lot over the years, and what we may have deemed a council one year may not be a council anymore because of their changing in their fundraising model changes. Like they might actually get their money from, a different source versus, a percentage from the PTA, or they might change their, like, I know there's a, organization 99 pledges, I think it's called. They actually keep the money of the PTAs. They don't give it to you till it ends, which means that they fall in that solicitor company category because they are receiving the money and holding the money. And so it's important for you to know that, and for your PTAs to know that, because if someone else has got your money, then there's got to be some accountability, for that. So
Yes, and
yeah.
that is
But any
designed to
questions, let me
protect
know.
our PTA units. That is there for our benefit, not just because the Secretary of State wants to keep track of it. So they are helping to keep
Absolutely.
us safe. Here's an
Absolutely.
example of a non-requirement for registering a raffle. If you are on this training and would like to be entered for our Stanley Cup PTA prize, if you will just please, I was going to capture everybody's screen name, but a lot of you are like iPhone or something. So if you would like to be entered, please put into the chat your name and your local unit name, so whichever school you're associated with, and we will register you for that Stanley Cup drawing, which was donated and is not over $950. So I do not have to register that with Kim. And you don't have to pay anything to be
You're
in the
not
drawing.
paying.
You just had to be here.
Yeah,
So
perfect.
Kim, thank you. I just really cannot tell you how much we appreciate your partnership and support. And this training was absolutely phenomenal. I got so much new information that I thought I already knew. So I know it was beneficial for everyone. Thank you.
Great. You are very welcome. My pleasure.
All
All right.
right.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye. I'll stay on for another minute just to let everybody put those in the chat so we can capture everybody and register you for our drawing. Thank you again to all of our PTA leaders for being here. I know it's summer and it's hard to get in PTA mode. My brain is still in beach mode. But I think this was really hopefully valuable for all of you, because the Secretary of State is sort of a confusing thing. And so trying to get these details nailed down, hopefully will make it less intimidating and less of a big deal. And you're like, oh yeah, I know what we've got to do. It's not a huge deal. Latasha, I see you. Yes, you count for the drawing. Do our district leaders count? Yes, yes, you do. So again, once you've put your name and your school in the chat, feel free to log off, or if you just have a question for me as treasurer, feel free to unmute and let me know. Lots of schools, lots of districts represented. That's great. We appreciate y'all attending, and hopefully these are helpful for you. If you have suggestions or recommendations for training opportunities that you would like to see like this, then don't ever hesitate to reach out to any of the board. All of our contact details are on our website, scpta.org. We are here for you to support you and your unit in whatever you're trying to do. So we are always happy to hear from you. All right, it looks like pretty much as everybody has typed into the chat their name and school. So we will close it out for today, but the recording of this, if you have officers on your teams that need to see it, the recording will be posted the next day or two on our website. All right, thanks guys. See you soon.